UFC Fight Night, Tsarukyan versus Hooker, takes place in a couple hours, and these are my quick predictions for every fight on the card. Mark Buljo versus Denzel Freeman. I'll go with Denzel Freeman on this one, mainly because I think he's a little more proven. It is hard to say, though, because both these guys coming from a regional scene, nothing like the Contender Series or anything, so it's pretty tough to say. There's not much I can go off of, but yeah, maybe they'll look a little different, but I'll go with Denzel Freeman here. Nurullo Aliev versus Shamrock. I gotta go with Nurullo Aliev to beat Shamrock in his UFC debut. I just think he would need a little bit more experience to beat Nurullo Aliev, because Shamrock, he hasn't all the best of opponents, and I believe there will be levels in this fight, but I do believe that Shamrock can maybe have a good showing, but just not enough to beat Aliev in your debut. That's a pretty tough ask. Ismail Nordiev versus Ryan Loder. I think I'll go with Ismail Nordiev in this one because he is decently well-rounded. He did lose to Jun Young Park, and pretty clearly it was a really bad look at the end of the fight. He illegally kneed him in the first round, got 2 points taken away, and he was getting out-grappled, and he was looking very tired, but Ryan Loder's not Jun Young Park, he hasn't had that much time in MMA. He's coming from wrestling, spent a few years in MMA now, and when he doesn't get his takedowns, like on Azamat Bakoyev, he's kind of forced to strike, and that's not where he looks the best, so I'll go for Nordiev to get this one done, probably by a TKO in the later rounds. Begsat Almakhan versus Alexandre Topuria. This is a good fight, and it is very interesting because we've seen a lot more of Begsat in the UFC. Got a 1 minute something KO versus Brad Katona in his last outing back in May. He also fought Umar in his debut, which is pretty crazy. And he did drop Umar. He did get 10-8'd in some of the rounds, but he was holding his own. He was staying in it. So I'll take the risk, though. I think I'm going to go with Alexandre Topuria because I just believe he kind of has that X factor. Maybe not as much as Ilya, but I like his head movement. I like the power. Wrestling seems pretty even for me. So I'll go with Topuria in a close striking match based on more damaging shots. But it is a close fight. Abdulrahman Yakiaev and Rafael Cerqueira. I'll go with Yakiaev on this one. Showed some good talent on the Contender Series. KO over, I forget who it was against, but it was a good TKO. And Cerqueira came into the UFC off the regional scene, 11-0, and he has lost 3 in the UFC now, so hasn't shown too much, and really the talent of Abdulrahman will show in this fight. So I'm going to go with him by early TKO, probably in the first round. Alex Perez versus Asu Almabayev. I've got Asu Almabayev on this one. Alex Perez, he gives a lot of tests to these flyweights, and I'm sure this will be no different, but I believe that Asu Almabayev will pass this test. Maybe not with flying colors, but he is a pretty good fighter. Grappling is what he's best at. That's his bread and butter. Couldn't really get takedowns on Manel Cap, though. Manel Cap, I poked him, I don't know how many times. Way too many times. He finished him with eye pokes. Pretty insane. I know Cap is really good, but he did cheat a bunch in that fight. But yeah, Asu Almabayev, grappling, but he's also pretty good at striking, you know. Overhands are good. He can for wheel kicks. I don't think he's going to KO Perez with those, but I believe he'll look a little more sharp on the feet and maybe gets a few takedowns, but not too much. Too much success in the grappling, you know. I think it'll be competitive there. Nicholas Dalby, yeah, I'm going with Asim Almabayev by decision. Nicholas Dalby versus Sajid Isgakmayev. Yeah, I'm going with Sajid Isgakmayev on this one. I just believe, coming from 1FC, I believe. Pretty good strikers over there. Grapplers, not as many, but I like that because Dalby is mainly a striker, and I believe this probably will be a striking match. And Sajid, he's got some pretty nice striking. Has a few wins by knockout, or quite a few by knockout. You know, he's pretty good, and more in his prime, I'd say. 31 to 41. So I'll go with Sajid to win this one. Probably by either a hard-fought decision with a couple tests, or he really puts a stamp on his debut and gets a finish. I'd say more likely a decision, though. Bogdangrad versus Luke Riley. I've got Luke Riley on this one. I believe he's more clean overall than Bogdangrad. Bogdangrad kind of has got that, you know, that, I don't know if Marauder, but he's got that brute style, like a walk forward, whoever a storm, look to make things dirty. I believe that Luke Riley, he's probably going to slow things down a little in this fight and just landing cleaner shots, I believe. He's got clean boxing, and you know, maybe Grad mixes in some takedowns, but not to too much avail, so I'll go with Luke Riley based on either a decision where he outstrikes Bogdangrad or he's going to catch him. And I think, honestly, he could get a TKO. And maybe round 2 or 3, but I could see him stealing this one. Tagira Lembekov versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Tough fight to pick, you know. I kind of want to go with Horiguchi. He's an overall pretty skillful MMA fighter. Tons of experience. 39 pro fights, or 40, because he has a no contest in there. And I don't know, man. I'm gonna feel stupid if I get this wrong, but I feel like the activity of Tagir and fighting some pretty good UFC opponents, I'll give him the edge in a decision. He does make a lot of things close, which with opponents I don't believe he should be making as close fights with them. He is pretty good, you know. He's lost in the past, but I think a hard-fought decision for Tagir is what I'm feeling. But then again, I could really see Horiguchi winning. Let's talk about Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Shamil Gaziev. You know, I'm a big fan of Gaziev. I want him to win this one. I think I'll go with Waldo on very short notice, though. You know, I really used to not like Waldo, probably due to his showboating, going to a 29-28 with 45-year-old Andrei Arlovsky. That made me pretty mad. Also, what else? Oh yeah, I really didn't like that Rebellis to Spain fight. I really hated that. What else? Anyway, yeah, and we also like to make fun of Waldo a little bit. Call him, you know, make fun of him because he's not the best, or so I thought. But, you know, it's heavyweight. A lot of guys don't look so good. And Waldo honestly is, I don't know if he's a future champion, but he's definitely a staple in that top 10. He's top 6 right now, I believe. Yeah, he's pretty fast overall. Throws some leg kicks. That works. It's that heavyweight, so everybody has power, but you know, if either guys hit clean, you know, they're going down, but I don't know. They have really good chins of both of them. Acosta and Gaziev, they have granite chins. That's what they've shown so far. You know, I want Gaziev to win, but I think Gaziev should build himself up. Let him have that Sergey Spivak test, which was supposed to be scheduled, but Waldo stepping in on 2 to 3 days notice. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a decision for Waldo, probably 29, 28, 30, 27, but, you know, I'm rooting for the Blob to get this one. Right now, Jack Hermanson versus Muktabek Oral by. Interesting fight. We have a middleweight versus a lightweight at welterweight. Jack's moving down, Oral by's moving up. Lighter man skill times 2. So I'm going with Oral by to get this one. Mr. Mammoth Hunter himself. He is one of my favorites. I really like Oral by. But as to how this fight goes, I believe that striking, you know, Jack Hermanson, he's kind of that more skilled type guy on the back foot at middleweight who's going to pick you apart. On middleweights, that works, but on a lightweight, I don't know about that. I think that Oral by is going to have some good moments on the feet himself, and this will be pretty competitive in the striking, but I believe that Oral by can really get some nice takedowns in there, really good pressure, find submissions. He got a Kimura in his last outing over Tafik Musayev. That was in Azerbaijan. And then, yeah, he also submitted Uros Medic with a face crank. I think that's a good win. So yeah, honestly, I'll go with Oral by to get this one, maybe by submission, honestly. I could see maybe an arm triangle. Maybe an arm triangle, that's what I'm feeling. If he's going to get a submission, but I'd say maybe a decision win for Oral by on this one. Yeah. And Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. I'll go with Volkan Oezdemir on this one. I believe this one could get interesting because Menifield is a pretty hard hitter. He hasn't gotten the most knockout wins, though. I don't remember the last ones. because he's gotten a few wins by decision now, like Jacoby, which was a pretty competitive fight. Kind of clutched up with that one. He dropped Jacoby a few times. And he also had that win over Julius Walker, which was a pretty decent win. Also had that really bad fight with Umar Sy, which was not fun to watch. And Uzdemir, been a while since we've seen him. Last one over Carlos Ulberg, 29-28 with Ulberg. It's honestly pretty good. Ulberg is top 3. Might be a future champion. Or I don't know if he's beating Alex Pereira, or Yuri Proska, but could be a future title challenger for sure. And yeah, I think I'll go with Volkan Oezdemir on this one. Just a little more experience in the UFC. And yeah, cleaner shots will land. I don't really expect much grappling in this fight. I'm going to say Oezdemir by more picking shots. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, now we have our main and co-main, which these ones are good. For our co-main, Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Gary. I'm going for Ian Gary on this one. I think it will be a competitive fight because Bilal is pretty good, former champion. But I believe that Ian will really steal this and have a pretty good performance, honestly. I don't really see Bilal taking Ian Gary down, or I could see it happening, but not too consistently. And I could see Ian really easily building himself back up. And on my feet, I definitely say this is Ian's world. Bilal, mainly, he throws some body kicks, some of boxing, but I believe that Ian really holds a kicking advantage over Bilal. He's going to be snapping kicks from range, looking to land his straight shots. He beat Carlos Prates on short notice, which is very impressive. In a 5-rounder. He was getting really tired at the end of that fight and almost got finished, but he survived. Beat Carlos Prates with striking, some grappling in there, but he wasn't able to do too much on that in that realm. And yeah, that's a really impressive win to me. For Bilal coming off that JDM fight, it was a pretty good fight, but honestly, I know the judges, 2 of them gave it 48-47. I would honestly say that's closer to 50-45 for JDM, I gotta be honest here. I don't know, Bilal is pretty good, and he is a tough guy. I don't know if I don't really know if he's gonna go down. So I'm gonna say Ian Gary, probably by decision, 49-46. I could see that. Maybe gets TKO. I could see him hurting Bilal to the body, maybe with a teep or something like that. So that's what I'd say for a finish. But I'll say Ian Gary by decision, based off striking on the back foot, pushing Bilal in the corner a few times, maybe tease off for a bit, maybe get some good body shots, defends his takedowns, maybe gets taken down a couple times, but builds himself back up. That's what I think. Now let's move on to the main event. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. Got Arman Tsarukyan on this one. And I'm going to take him by finish. I'm going to take him by, I don't know what round. I could see this happening early. I could see it happening late though. So, but both stylistically, I think that this is a pretty good fight on the feet. You know, Hooker, he's gonna be wild. Being wild is his key to victory, but Arman, I could really see him hanging with Dan on the feet. He's got some good body kicks. You know, with Hooker's much bigger frame, or much taller and lengthier frame. This can be hard for Arman to maybe get a knockout on the feet. I see that being pretty tough, but Hooker, I don't know if Hooker gets him. I think he could land some good shots, but it's a matter of time before Arman decides to grapple with Hooker, and I believe he's gonna hold a massive advantage there. With Gamrot, sure, he's really good at getting the takedowns, but on top, he doesn't pose too much, you know? Like, he can hold some people down, but then again, not much finishing threat from Gamrot. And Arman, he's got nasty ground and pound. Not many submissions we've seen, but I'm sure you can mix that up. So I'll go with Arman to win this one, probably by a TKO on the ground, maybe a submission. Rounds 2 or 3 is what I'm feeling. But then again, be surprised if Hooker catches Arman. But I could see it happening. And again, I'm going to go with Arman in this one. And that's going to do it for my full card predictions. I said this would be quick picks. I've been talking for 22 minutes now. So, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.